that's how they're trying to justify it. And part of it is because they're really scared now because the polls post-trial have now come out in the last week. Did the conviction really affect the election? And here's Fox News talking about this. And it's not good.
Trump simply cannot beat President Joe Biden, relying solely on the votes of people who think his legal travails are a politically motivated scam.
MAGA Republicans have been trying to publicly spin Donald.
This is Pondering Politics. Let me skip ahead a little bit. Let me have him just introduce this.
But again, polls and a Fox News host beg to differ. We're going to start with this clip here in which Fox News host Shannon Bream has an exchange with Republican Senator Tim Scott on this very topic.
Shannon.
Okay, so let's talk about this. The Republican spin on this has been it's going to motivate your base, that angry voters are motivated voters, and they are angry about this verdict. But Politico adds this, saying Trump simply cannot beat President Joe Biden, relying solely on the votes of people who think his legal travails are a politically motivated scam. Trump's only path to victory is a coalition that includes many Republicans and independents who find him deplorable, but think a second Biden term would be even more so. So what is the plan from President Trump to reach out to people who may not love him at this point? Maybe some Nikki Haley voters, independents, others who are skeptics, other than the grievances. What about campaigning on policy and reaching out?
So that was kind of the
What about policy? What about what? I've got an idea. What if he actually talked about policy?
What? No, he doesn't have any policy. Policy is we're going to get revenge on everybody I don't like. That's the policy.
That's the platform.
That's been their platform for a while. I just think it's funny because she's pointing out the big issue here is, like we were saying before, he's got to make up ground from the last election. He did not. Biden smoked him. Biden beat him by a lot. And so he's got to make up ground, and now he's alienating Nikki Haley's voters. He's alienating big parts of the Republican Party. He's now convicted, so the uninformed voter group, they might not know anything else about him or Biden or anything else because they don't follow politics, but they're going to know he's a convicted felon, and that's definitely going to sway some votes. And that was the question: does it help him? Does it hurt him? Well, here it is. This is Brian Tyler Cohen, and he's going to jump in and tell us a little bit about this.
It apparently did not take long for Donald Trump to feel the electoral impacts of his guilty verdict in his New York criminal trial. There have now been a raft of post-conviction polls, and the results are devastating for him. So we're going to jump in, but let me caveat this really quickly. We're in a moment of calcified polarization. It is next to impossible to get any movement in polls, which is why these polls are especially telling. First off, the Reuters Ipsos poll. 3 weeks back, it was a dead heat, 40-40. Now, Biden leads 41-39. In that poll, 10% of Republicans and 25% of independents say they're less likely to vote for Trump now. Even if half of that number revert back and ultimately go home to Trump, that is still a massive defection of voters away from Donald Trump, and could very well be the difference between a Trump win and a Trump loss. Another poll, Morning Consult. Last time, Trump was up 44-42. This time, Biden leads 45-44, a 3-point swing in Biden's favor. Worse, 15% of Republicans and 49% of independents said that Trump should end his campaign as the result of his conviction. Not exactly a ringing endorsement from his own base, nor the independents.
So, basically, he's got even more ground to make up now. Half of independents say he shouldn't even be running. 15%. He can't lose. He can't lose 1% of the Republicans, and 15% are already gone.
Right.
I don't see. I mean, it's still early. It's still several months before the election. He could pull something out, but right now, I said this earlier. I don't see how he could do it before. Now, I definitely don't see how he can do it. I think he's going to lose. I think he's going to lose by a lot. I think it's going to be embarrassing. So
I hope he's got a good therapist, because I think those daddy issues are going to come out big time for him.
Yeah, especially in prison. Oh, man. I could talk to his prison psychologist. Daddy didn't love me. But anyway, let's I'm sorry, because just thinking about him in jail in a jumpsuit, just talking about his problems. So we'll see if he gets prison time. I think he's going to get prison time. I think the DA is going to ask for the minimum, which is over a year. But we'll see. But let's jump into some fun stuff for real quick. So it's been a while. We've ignored them, but we got to go to some of the crazier outskirts of the MAGA movement just for fun. So Marjorie Taylor Greene having a rough time lately. I don't know. Did you know that, Lacey? She's really having a hard time moving along. So first, when Trump had his trial, remember he invited a bunch of the Republicans, the Red Tie Brigade. They all came in dressed like him, and they were all yelling at the press outside the courthouse. Yeah, and so invited a bunch of like Matt Gaetz and all these other guys, and Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, who Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to get ousted. He got invited, but guess who didn't get invited? Marjorie Greene didn't get invited. And she was very upset by that, and it was a very tough moment for her. And furthermore, Trump just came out with his shortlist for the VP, for his vice presidential pick. And we're going to look at it real quick. Here it is. Trump's docs requests reveal VP shortlist. Here it is. J.D. Vance, who I said I think is going to be the guy. Doug Burnham, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, Ben Carson, Elise Stefanik, Byron Donalds, Tom Cotton. Guess who's not on that list? Marjorie Greene. Yeah, so she's having a rough week, and then, because she's the ultimate Trumper, she loves him so much. But she's such an embarrassment, right? He can't have her anywhere near him. But she kind of lost her collective shit.
Oh my God, I would be so excited for that pairing. Like, that would be such a train wreck that I would be like this, like, the whole time.
She's such a nutball. So, in all of her anger and frustration, she's on the COVID committee. And she's a COVID denier, which is weird. Half of them are COVID deniers on that committee. So they were going on, and you think, okay, normal COVID committee meeting, let's talk about what went right, what went wrong, how we can prevent it in the future, how we can get prepared so we don't have this sort of devastating response that we had where 1 million Americans died over a few years. That was traumatic, right? You'd think that's what it'd be about, but no. Marjorie Taylor Greene took it in a completely different direction when she was interviewing Anthony Fauci. Now, when she interviews people in Congress, and this is every time, she doesn't ask questions. She just yells at you for 5 minutes and then gets up and leaves. That's all she does. So we're going to get ready for some of that. And it's just fucking stupid.
Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes or
Again,
no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no
Yes,
answer.
it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you represent.
Oh,
But
Lacey, you teach English, right? So if I say you ask me a financial question and people are criticizing me, I'm saying, well, that's just the facts. That's just what it is. I'm just representing finance. Does that mean I am the representative of finance or a representative of finance? Or does it just mean that in that moment I'm representing the findings of the financial community? How would you take that?
I mean, I would kind of go with the last one, but
Okay. Yeah. Just saying. It's just one of those things. It's like
I am not representing the entire English language. However, in any given moment, I might be representing some rule of grammar or something in literature
some fact about
as
English.
being
I'm just
fact, as maybe an expert in that area. Yes.
I like how stupid she is. He's a scientist. He doesn't represent science. He's not the czar
Well,
of
it's like,
science.
what's her point? What's her point?
She
Now
doesn't-
she's showing him dogs. Like,
yeah, we're gonna see this. This is really fucking stupid. Yeah, no, she doesn't. Her point is she hates him and she thinks he's evil. That's it. That's her whole point.
This, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American...
There's another situation with dogs I'd love to hear her opinion on.
Right, because didn't Christy Nome, like, kill her dog?
Right, so how's Christy Nome for you, Margie?
Yeah.
How's that?
No, so when she's...
Oh, no, those are the right kind of dogs to kill?
Right.
So Republicans murder dogs.
Right.
Right?
She's referring to some thing that he wasn't even involved in the study. I guess it was something going on when he was there, and they had dogs and they were bitten by insects, and they wanted to test the results of these insects biting the dog. But he wasn't involved. The photo she's showing here of the two beagles, I don't know what this experiment is, but I looked it up later. That's from Tunisia. So Fauci has nothing to do with that. That's another country doing that. So Fauci at the National Institute of Health at the NIH, he had nothing to do with it. So this is all bullshit. But she's trying to say, look, you torture animals. When the Republican way is we take them to the gravel pit and we shoot them.
I don't understand this lady. Like, how does she have enough time on her hands to, like, come up with this weird stuff?
Because she doesn't pass anything. She doesn't do it. She doesn't have any policies. She just gets up there and yells. She's just trying to get clips and TV shows. And look, we're falling into it. Yeah, because we're talking about it now and making fun of her. But she's just an embarrassment. But there is a small portion of people that support her that will give her money. She's one of the biggest fundraisers for the Republicans because of this stupid shit.
Georgia. I mean, listen, if you want to put in a Republican, fine. Do your thing, Georgia. Do your thing. But, like, come on. You could do a little better than this.
Well, and furthermore, absolutely, Georgia. And here's the other thing. Not Georgia's the state, but that county she's in she's actually in, like, the reddest county, one of the reddest counties in the country, if not the.
Well, sure, that's fine, but I feel like they can still do better.
Well, absolutely. But the thing about it, too, is if you ever wanted a poster child for anti-democracy, she's it. This is the democratically elected representative. I don't know. Maybe democracy's not really working, guys. She doesn't get it, but she just cracks me up.
Taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including 6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You made it up.
I didn't say I made.
Okay, I want to get this because this is funny. So that's the Daily Mail. First off, the Daily Mail is a freaking right-wing rag. You can't trust hardly anything in it. You try to verify it, and 90% of the time it's bullshit. Here's what he said in reality. With the 6 feet rule, they asked him, why is it 6 feet? He's like, it's kind of arbitrary. It could be 5, it could be 10. It's got to be at least 3 or 4, though. So we just said 6. We just sort of made up 6 just to make it something people could use as a guide, right? It's kind of like, why is this an inch? Why isn't this an inch? Because we just arbitrarily said that's an inch.
It's sort of like, why is there a guideline that your emergency savings should be, 6 months of your expenses? Why isn't it 9 months or 11 months or 3 months, right? I mean,
it's arbitrary. We're just giving it. It's just sort of a rule of thumb, and that's what he was saying. And like the kids wearing masks, he's like, kind of a rule of thumb. It was like, well, do they really need to? Is it going to make a difference? Well, maybe not. Found out it actually did.
And at a certain point at the beginning of something, people are making up rules because it's a new thing. There weren't rules before because it wasn't a thing before.
Right. Yeah, so she's doing all this, and it's all fucking nuts. We'll skip ahead. I don't want to watch all this, but we'll skip to some. What's her next bit? She's such an idiot. Oh, here's a good one. We'll skip to this. But yeah, I mean, it's, once again, she's just making shit up. Now, what does any of this have to do with, I mean, the dog thing, what does that have to do with COVID? God knows. Right? She's just trying to discredit this guy. But really the question is, what's actually beneficial going forward? You know, and the masks were, and the distancing was. So, anyway.
And why you got Fauci here in the first place for, anyway?
Because mainly the Republicans just wanted to attack him. Instead of, let's ask one of the foremost viral doctors, pandemic doctors in the world, hey, how could we have done this better in the future? What can we do to prevent this in the future, or at least respond better? That's what I'd be asking him.
Or right. I mean, you could ask that of Fauci. Like, okay, so if you could go back knowing what you know now, what would have been like some better pathways for us to take on this, you know? Instead,
they just yelled at him to try and score points with their conspiracy voter base, their anti-COVID, anti-vaccine voter base. That's all it is. So we'll watch this clip real quick.
Objection.
I reclaim my time. Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Mr. Chairman,
Point of order.
just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in
Gentlelady
prison.
will suspend. The gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, is this what we have become? Is this what we have devolved into? No decorum.
You know what? We can do that hearing about the poor men that were injected with syphilis, because I support you in that. That's horrific. And this government that does things like that to Americans doesn't have decorum to the American people.
Mr. Chairman,
The gentleman is out of
point of regular order, please.
The gentleman is out of order.
I don't want to call him a doctor because I don't like him. Oh, man. You have anything on that? Are you there?
I'm done with them.
It's just all stupid shit. I mean, yeah, but it just goes on.
I feel like they just like to waste more time rather than get anything accomplished.
Right.
I feel like over and over, we're watching clips of them wasting time, being totally ineffective and getting nothing accomplished. Like, what are you dragging him in there for? Like, what is your purpose? You're supposed to get some things done for us, and it's just some weird rag session that doesn't feel like it's going anywhere that makes any sense. They are not a courtroom, but it kind of feels like they just want to drag people in there and try them, so to speak. But they're not a courtroom. They're supposed to be getting some things done.
Right. We're supposed to be getting answers and solutions to problems and presenting bills and ideas about how we can distribute our resources to better equip the country, to make the country better. Instead, what has she passed? What has she done since she's been in office? Fucking nothing.
She just likes to drag people in there and start railing at them and wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, but then it goes, this is why we cover it.
If her railing went somewhere that was going to translate into something getting done, maybe it would be worthwhile, but it never does.
Yeah, but this is why we cover it, is because that's what it is. And she represents a big portion of the Republican Party. The MAGA wing, right? This is what their government looks like. Nothing gets done. We just yell at people and blame people. We never accomplish anything. We never pass anything. We never do anything. It's all just performance shit to try and raise money. It's just a big telethon. That's all it is. Anyway, Fauci got the chance to finally respond on the news, and this is on CNN with Caitlin Collins. Let's see if that'll come up.
And my source tonight is Dr. Anthony Fauci himself. And Dr. Fauci, it's great to have you on tonight. I mean, it was a remarkable day on Capitol Hill. And obviously, you're not a stranger to testifying before Congress or even pretty contentious hearings. But I just wonder how today compares to the other times that you've been up on Capitol Hill testifying before lawmakers.
Well, as you know, Caitlin, thank you for having me. I have testified literally hundreds of times over the last 40 years over Congress, and there's always been differences of opinion, differences of ideology, criticisms, and things like that. But the level of vitriol that we see now, just in the country in general, but actually played out during this hearing, was really quite unfortunate, because the purpose of hearings are to try and figure out how we can do better so that next time, if and when we are faced with a pandemic, we'd be better prepared and we could benefit. If mistakes were made, we identify them and we try to correct them for the future. That's not what we saw today, as shown by the clip you showed with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, that was nothing about trying to do better, unfortunately.
Yep. He's right. I mean, that's all it is. They're just bitching and moaning. And he's right. You've got all those people in that room. A lot of them are government employees. They're all getting paid. It's costing hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million, to run that hearing. And she blows a bunch of time just to yell at the guy because she thinks it'll help her out with, her voters, with the base. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's all she's got. Plus, I think she's still really hurt that she didn't make the VP list. This is her trying to get back some TV time after getting kicked in the balls.